speak publicly. So it's 6:35. So welcome to the neighborhood meeting of the presentation of the Lotz Way single family home project. On the screen is Cameron Najumi, who is the project sponsor, Karen Singh, who's the assistant project manager, and Clay Fry, who is the architect on behalf of Cameron Najumi, who will be providing the presentation tonight and answering any questions you might have. Cameron, would you like to say anything to start?
Good evening. Welcome to this neighborhood meeting. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to present to you a project that I'm very proud of because it is strategically located at the entrance to the old town. And I have long been involved in the redevelopment of Sassoon, and I feel that this project will significantly enhance the entrance to the old town and would be a significant contribution to the neighborhood in which it's going to locate. Of course, we have a permit process to follow, but we at this stage, I'm glad to have the architect on board to share the specifics of the project with you, and then let us hear any concerns you may have so we can properly address them. But that said, I'll turn that over to you, Clay, and be available for any questions at the end.
So I'm going to share a Google Earth screen with everyone first to sort of give you the, I'm sure you all live there, and I know you all know where this is, but I always go through this. So, you have the lagoon. Lotz Way sits here. It's this vacant parcel that is currently zoned for up to 38 units. It has city property that's slated to become an alley, which we will be doing that. There's retail here, there's housing here. Civic Center Drive goes down this way towards the lagoon. You have the nice public park here. It's a nice walking distance to the lagoon. So that's where the project is located. The next step would be to show you the vision for the property. We've been working with the city of Sassoon for several months to create a project that develops the alley with public parking along the alley, landscaping, new sidewalks, extending the bicycle path and pedestrian path along Lotz, creating a new crosswalk, a new landscape buffer strip along Lotz Way, similar to the buffer strip, landscape, and sidewalk along Lotz on the opposite side of the street. All of these homes have front doors along Lotz and garages in the back. And so we took that cue from the existing development along Lotz and created single family homes on individual lots with garages in the back opening into an alley, which is essentially how this entire side of the street has been developed. The EVA here is a fire department. You won't be able to, no one will drive in and out of here except the fire department. You'll have a turnaround, which is what this circle's about, and drive back out. So everybody coming to this will come to Alder, come in, go into their single family garages, and then go into their homes. We have also created a public pocket park that is not fenced. It's entirely open to the public. Anybody can come and park on the street or park on this side of the street because there's no parking on this side and play in the park.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I think you have to go down on the participants tab and admit the individuals from the waiting room because I'm getting emails letting me know.
That they can't hear?
Yeah, that it still shows them the waiting.
Everybody's been admitted. I'll start all over again.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. I haven't run one of these, and usually it's in a public setting and there's somebody else running the show. So I'll start all over. That's cool. I'm good. Thank you all for joining us. I appreciate your patience with my naivete. Again, I'm Clay Fry. I'm the architect. Cameron's the project sponsor. Kieran's the assistant project manager. The project is located at the corner of Alder, Lotz Way, and Civic Center Boulevard. It's this vacant piece of property here. This is your lagoon. I'm sure you're all very familiar with all of this property and where it is. Everybody's in the meeting, so if you have a question, feel free. Moving on to the site plan. Again, this is the property. Lotz Way is here. Alder's here. There's some retail to this side, Civic Center Boulevard to this side. The lagoon is south and west of here. The project is proposing 16 single-family homes. The site is currently zoned for 38 units. The proposal is for 16. The proposal is to provide a new improvements to the city property to create a new public alley with public parking along the entire northern side. A series of single-family garages fed off of the alley, fed off of Alder. There will be no curb cuts along Lotz Way, similar to the southern side of Lotz Way. There will be a new crosswalk, a new bike path, a new pedestrian path in accordance with the goals of the city of Sassoon, a new sidewalk and street trees along Alder, a new landscape buffer approximately 10 feet wide all along Lotz Way, similar to what occurs on the southern side of Lotz Way. There will be a new public park dedicated to the city that's open, not fenced. Anyone can park here or park along Lotz and use this park. The EVA is for fire department use only. There will be no ability for any car or personal vehicle to enter this way. It's only for fire department access. The turnaround at the end of the alley is this circle. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I mean, the purpose of these meetings is really to hear from the neighborhood and the constituency so that, you know, this is the first time we're bringing this in front of the public to hear what your questions might be. So if you have a question, given that everybody's in the meeting at once, I guess there's a couple different ways I could do this. I could call on each of you and say, do you have questions? Let's try it that way and see how that goes. Mike, Pat, I see you're upper left there paying close attention to what's going on. Do you have any questions for me?
We do. We submitted them by chat, but I'll be happy to say them aloud.
Mike's
Sorry, Pat, your audio just cut out as you started talking.
So yes, we do have questions. We submitted some by chat and additional ones.
Okay, and so does Jim Bermudez and his team have those questions? Or did you submit those to Kieran?
Just now, we submitted them in the chat for the Zoom.
Okay.
And if there's any problem reading them, we can easily say them out.
No. I'm catching up to you.
Okay, no worries.
So the public alley will be.
I'm
So
sorry,
the question.
I'm sorry, Mr. Fry. It might be helpful for others if you could repeat the questions.
I'm about to do that, sir.
Okay, awesome.
So his question is, who's responsible for maintaining the public alley in the adjacent Vic Harbor? City forgot to provide for payment and maintenance. 2, are the carriage houses accessory dwelling units that the owners can rent out? 3, will there be a requirement for an HHA? I think you mean HOA. If not, who will enforce the CC&Rs? And how will the amount of the LLD assessment compare to the assessment for the Vic Harbor? So Cameron, I think most of those are yours. Is that correct?
Right. Yes, similar to the model that has been implemented throughout the city, the public improvements will be placed in a maintenance district, and the homeowners within the subdivision are responsible for paying for those maintenance of those improvements.
Excuse me just one second, Mr. Nojumi. I'm really sorry to interrupt, but I just want to make sure that my question is clear. We live in Victorian Harbor, which is right next door, and the city unfortunately did not make any mechanism for maintaining what they call our alleys. We own our alleys. And that means that when it's necessary to repave them, we have to come up with money to pave them. And the city has said very clearly that we may not use LLD assessment money for that. So there needs to be a separate mechanism for maintaining the actual street surface.
We will calculate the cost of maintaining the alleys and the landscaping into this district. So
Yeah,
this
I
district
won't
will-
interrupt again, but just to be clear, I'm just repeating what the city attorney has told us over the
Understand.
years. It is illegal to use LLD money to repave alleys. That's what we've been told. I won't say it again. Sorry to interrupt.
I'm not quite sure what the case may be there, but these are public improvements, and the maintenance district is formed to maintain the public improvements. Will be formed, I should say.
So if I might phrase it a different way, we've actually had extensive discussions with the city about the alley and the park and the landscape space, about how the maintenance district gets formed to take care of the alley and the park and the landscape strip. And Cameron and the city of Sassoon have come to an agreement, for lack of a better word, of how that gets accomplished so that there aren't any gaps. That hasn't been finalized yet, but that's the intent. And I'm sorry if your particular thing didn't get sorted out correctly, but the city and Cameron understand that this needs to be taken care of correctly, and that's what they're trying to accomplish as we move through the process. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I'm glad that you guys are aware of the issue, and yeah, for all I know, like I just typed into the chat, maybe you can draft new wording for your particular LLD that's different from current LLDs. I just want to make sure everybody understands that it's not, there is a gap in Victorian Harbor, and it's a real problem.
I'm sorry to hear that. We endeavor to avoid that gap. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. I see someone. I would like to find out if front yard area is maintained by assessment district or individual households. How wide are the home and what is the space in between is the question. So this area out here is city property. This area through here is controlled by the individual homeowner. So for example, this home controls that little bit, and they would be responsible for taking care of their front yard. This zone out here is city property and would be part of the maintenance district that Mr. and Mrs. Matson just brought up, and would be funded to be taken care of, as well as the sidewalk and the alley. How wide is each home? They're currently set up. Well, the garages are 20 feet wide and the home's not far off of that. I can go to the floor plans and answer that question exactly for you in a minute. The distance between the homes varies between 4 and 7 feet either side of the property line, which is the building code requirement. So what we tried to do was sort of take the distances between the homes across the street and try and play off of that pattern, and then create little 3-story single family homes. So we tried to draw from the neighborhood, we tried to draw from the architecture, and then play off of that. Granted, there are some larger areas, but we were trying to provide a public park in and amongst the homes and not max out the density to the 38 allowable. So it was a little bit of give and take to try and take some of the best parts and still provide, you know, community benefit to the neighborhood for a little public park. So it might be tighter than some want. It's not dissimilar than what's across the street. We think we've done a pretty good job of balancing the competing interests. But that's part of why we have these meetings, is so you can hear kind of how we got to where we got to. You know, 38 units here would be a lot. 16 is about less than half. So I think that the project sponsor has actually done a rather remarkable job of balancing those things, but we're all ears. I mean, it's just my opinion, right? Anybody else have a question? Vic, MDW, Brian Taylor, Fandango. I see names there.
I do. I have some questions.
Of course.
Hi. First of all, it's great that this area is being developed, and that's wonderful. I've been reading a document called the Waterfront District Specific Plan, and I believe it was last revised in 2016. It may have been revised since then, but not that I'm aware of. And one of the things that struck me about that was the architectural design section. If I can quote something from section 6.2, it says building heights above the first 2 stories are encouraged to step back to respect the heights of existing adjacent development, particularly along Lotz Way. So I noticed that these are 3 stories with a 3-story facade facing the street. So I wanted to mention about that. I worry a little bit. I live in Victorian Harbor, not on Lotz Way though. I worry that it may be rather overwhelming to the neighborhood next door. Another thing that struck me was another section of 6.2 in the Waterfront Specific Development Plan. It says the architectural character of the new residential neighborhood areas should reflect elements of the historic and residential styles. And it talks also about cookie cutter appearance shall be avoided by incorporating significant changes in massing and roof lines between the elevations of the same floor plan. And that I don't see in this proposal. The facades do look cookie cutter, and the overall look of it doesn't seem quite compatible with the Victorian-esque look of the neighbor Victorian Harbor. So that would be something I would ask everyone to consider if our plan is to build something there that fits in with the neighborhood. The look of it to me really doesn't. And that even includes the fencing proposal with the iron railings versus a wooden fence that the neighbors have. So those issues concern me, and I definitely wanted to mention them in this meeting.
So, thank you very much. I did spend time along the street looking at these homes. Oddly enough, one could argue these homes are reverse images of each other and are cookie cutter by definition. But there is some unique features to these homes, and they are one story. We did try to draw from the gable moments that these homes have and try and pull those into these homes. I wouldn't classify architecturally any of these homes along here as Victorian. I would classify them more as a cottage, California cottage style, pseudo trying to be craftsman. We of course did try and pull some of those elements into this. One of the issues with doing multiple homes and a series of homes like this is identifying a floor plan and identifying a marketplace and trying to create an architectural style that is consistent and tries to play off the people across the street. I mean, this is mobile homes, this is retail. So there is no really directly adjacent architecture, in my opinion, that this project needs to respond to. It's more how it relates across the street.
How it relates to the retail center and the mobile homes?
No, I'm saying that you're asking for an architecture that relates to the adjacency.
To the people across the street, yes.
And so it's how does architecture across the street work? And so is this architecture that we're doing sympathetic to the architecture across the street? Yeah, it's a story taller, but it is trying to draw from the architecture across the street.
So would you call what you're, excuse me, would you call what you have proposed more of a craftsman look?
I would say that it's trying to draw from the styling of the bay windows and the Bay Area regional style with brackets, awnings, overhangs, exposed eaves, projecting balconies to break down the massing. So having done quite a few projects in the Bay Area, I would say this draws from the Bay Area regional style without being very literate.
Well, to my eye, it really doesn't blend well with the Victorian Harbor next door neighbor. And
So
I would disagree that Victorian Harbor is cookie cutter. I think they're, they range from 1,000 to 2,400 square feet, and there are lots of different bedroom arrangements and such. At any rate, I really did want to bring that up for the city folks listening.
No, that's fine. I totally get it. Architecture is a very subjective, interesting thing. So these are the homes you're talking about, correct?
The ones along Lotz Way and back
Okay.
on Bay Street in Driftwood, the Victorian Harbor neighborhood. And yes, I agree they're cottagey, but I assume they wouldn't have named them Victorian Harbor if they didn't think they at least derived a little bit of their charm from the Victorian era. And I think that was the intent, to make it pedestrian and walkable. These 3 stories sort of vary. I mean, the facades are exactly the same, it looks like. Isn't quite the same. And personally, I'd rather see a little bit more variety in the facades. And that's my 2 cents worth.
My name is Karen. I live on Lotz Way. And I had a question about what is the total height at the very top of the roof for the new units?
So looking at this house, you're asking the question, what would that ridgeline be?
No, I'm asking at the new Lotz residences, what will be the uppermost height at the roof line?
I understand. So you're asking on this house, you would ask what that point is, correct?
Okay, yes, correct. Whatever the highest point.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that I'm answering your question correctly, that's all.
Okay, thanks, I appreciate it.
I don't want to give you an incorrect answer to whatever the question might be. So I want to define the understanding. So it is 34 feet to the ridge. That's the ridge. The height limit in the area as permitted by code is, so I'm going to give you that reference as well.
Okay.
Is 35 feet. So we're 33 feet, 3 inches to the ridge, and the height limit allowed by the planning code is 35 feet. So we're just a shade under 2 feet shorter than what's allowed by code there.
So are these units, are they slab on grade or they have crawl space underneath?
Currently slab on grade.
Okay. So then the minimum, the elevation, the flood elevation is now what, 10 feet versus it used to be, I think, 7 feet for our houses for the Victorian Harbor?
Yeah, so all of these homes, as you can see, the finished floor is up a little bit. And these little guys are vents, which means crawl space. So all these houses are elevated. Their finished floor is up here, right? And so,
yeah, it's not just the crawl space. They actually have, depending on where they are, how they sit, they actually have dirt. They're mounded up a little bit to increase the elevation.
Right.
So
soon floods, and you have to raise the floor elevation of the homes to avoid that. And so everybody on Lotz Way across the way is up a little bit, and everybody on Lotz Way in the new development will be up a little bit to match that.
Because you have that big mound of dirt right now on part of the lot. And so
yeah, that's just they're storing dirt there for the moment.
Yeah,
that'll be used to establish the finished grades for all the homes. So So
how high will the finished grade be before the homes are built on them?
They'll match what's pretty much across the street because that's required by the city of Suisun. So it'll be like that high and slope up just like this.
Okay, but if the elevation of the existing homes is only 7 feet and you're supposed to be at 10, how do you achieve that additional 3 feet of elevation?
You're throwing out numbers that I'm unfamiliar with.
Well, I talked to the city planner, and he told me that the new elevation requirement is 10 feet versus our homes, which were like 7 feet.
I will need to confer with our civil engineer and surveyor to see if that set of facts is what we're working with. Cameron, are you familiar with what the finished floor is? Because this lady's throwing off some numbers that I'm not familiar with.
The finished floor per flood regulation needs to be at about 10 feet. And I'm not quite sure that Victorian Harbor is at 7. I think it should be higher.
No, it's not. It's not. I have my elevation certificate, and it's not higher than 7. I talked to the city planner. That's where I got these numbers from.
Laws have changed.
I just talked to him a month ago, so I don't think the laws changed in a month.
But the new law, the requirements on us on this project is 10 feet, not by choice, but by law.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But so how high do you have to build the dirt up, the base, before you start actually constructing? How high does that dirt?
I believe it's about a couple of feet.
Okay.
Let me dig up while we're talking. If everyone can just give me a second, let me go dig up the survey. Hang on 1 second. So the finished floors will be at approximately 10.0. The existing street and sidewalk is and curb is around 6. The existing, hang on one sec, give me a minute. The existing so this will, I'm going to bring up a cut from the bike lane if I can. So I'm going to stop sharing the video there, and I'm going to bring up this cut. So this is Lotz Way right here. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
And this is the new bike lane, and this is the new landscape buffer that goes up to the proposed finish. So there's 8, 11, there's almost 20 feet from the back of the bike lane and almost 30 feet from the existing curb that's out there that slopes up like that. So if you go out there and that little curb sits out there today, and this is asphalt at the moment, and then the existing site does that, this is the property line. So there's a landscape buffer of 20 feet, as I mentioned, 10 feet of the proposed bike lane. This is where all the trees and landscaping will be. So it's a pretty gentle 1 in 4 slope up to a home that is a couple feet less than what's allowed by planning and zoning code. So
I guess we're on the very to the right side of that diagram where it has 11.00 FFE, is that the finished floor elevation?
yeah. Yes.
So my question is, if these are 3-story units and they're set up on 11 feet, does that still give them a total height of 33 feet 3 inches? Or is that?
So you measure from here.
Right. So you're measuring. So basically, it's almost like another story of elevation on top of the 3 stories of the unit.
When you're in, no, it's not another story. You're going from basically 7 feet to 11 feet. So that's 3 feet.
Oh, okay. So another almost half story. Okay.
Well, it's like the houses across the street are set up on a little porch. These are, so it's the same concept. Just
right.
Flood elevations keep rising because of sea level rise and BCDC requirements and climate change.
Right.
And so when you're in a floodplain, you measure from the height of the floodplain that the city sets. You don't measure from the street.
Correct. So flood insurance will be required for these units, or
it shouldn't be, because we're setting above the height. We're setting per current floodplain requirements. But if somebody changes all the data next week, then everything will change. But at the moment, we believe we don't believe. At the moment, we know we're designing to current zoning and planning standards and floodplain standards, and we're setting the floors accordingly, and have been working with the city of Sassoon to do that. Those are great questions. So
because of I used to be in construction, so because of the higher elevation that you're building these at, off the, elevated from the floodplain, even though they're in an AE zone, adverse event zone, they will not be required to have flood insurance, where the houses right across the street, if they still have a mortgage on them, will be required.
I can't speak to the houses across the street. I don't have any information.
Well, I have to have flood insurance, and, I'm just a couple blocks down, which is frustrating. Which is frustrating because the chances of a flood are very slim at this point, but yet, I'm paying like $1,000 a year additional for flood insurance on top of homeowners insurance. And the only way to get out of that is to have no mortgage.
I understand.
So I know that's not your issue. That's not your problem.
I do housing in floodplains. I totally understand your frustration as flood lines move up and down and things change. It's a very frustrating exercise.
Yeah, it is, because there are other areas like Sonoma County where they have regular flooding almost every year, but yet those places don't require flood insurance. And the once in a 100-year chance in Victorian Harbor somehow still does. So anyway, thank you for answering the questions about the elevation.
You're quite welcome. Thank you for bringing them up. I want to make sure that I scroll back through the questions. Hi, I would like to find out if the front yard area maintained by the assessment district. I think we answered that one, Vic Harbor. Raise your hand or send me another message if I missed it. Will the bike lane improvements from Karen Barca to everyone, will the bike lane improvements be only in front of the Lotz residence or continue down Marina Boulevard? This project will only be improving the property directly in front of itself. The city's goal is that the people to the east will do theirs when those projects go. We've been working with the city to make sure that we do ours so that it'll all mesh together and ultimately tie in further east and north. Hopefully that answers that question. Feel free to send another one if you have another question. Thank you for your answers. Are the home zero lot lines on one side? The short answer is no. We have a 4-foot setback on one side and a 6'6" setback on the other side to allow windows and space between the homes. So the way we've set up the homes is one side has 6 feet, the other side has 4 feet. Thus there's 10 feet between the two with a fence between the two. Are the carriage homes a separate, fully functioning unit with a kitchen and bathroom? They are set up that way. That is correct. They do have their little 1-bedroom homes. The drawings are on the city's website. You're more than welcome to go in and look at them. Karen, our assistant project manager, is collecting emails. So if you send an email or question, Cameron and I will get those answered for you. That's the last question I have. If anybody, we're at 7:12. Hi, Mike and Pat. You're certainly welcome to turn your microphone back on and ask another question.
You're unmuted. Go ahead.
We have
Yell it out.
multiple. We have multiple other questions. Originally,
I'm having a very difficult time hearing you.
Okay, well, we have several questions. Mike wrote about several into chat, and you only answered the first one.
Now two.
Or now two.
Yes.
So he has some more, and then I have a couple additional ones. So
the unanswered questions are HHO be homeowners association, HOA be required? If not, who will enforce the CCNRs? And how will the amount of the LLD assessment compare to the assessment for Vic Harbor? You already answered about the carriage houses.
So Mike and Pat, your audio's very difficult at the moment, which is fine. I would appreciate it if you would create an email and send it to Kieran, and we will get your questions answered for you because you're cutting in and out. And how
about writing into chat? Will that work?
You can do it that way too.
The question that I heard was about homeowners association. There is no homeowners association. CCNRs will be written and will be submitted to the city. City will be in charge of enforcing CCNRs as it's the model throughout the city. Now, if you're saying CCNRs not being enforced, is that the question?
Right. The city has made clear in the past that they are not legally responsible for enforcing CCNRs. So without an HOA,
I don't
think
know.
anybody's going to enforce them.
I'm not quite sure where you go. I mean, I disagree with that, but
That's as may be, but that's what city officials have told us. Okay, and so the last question that is already in the chat is, how does the amount of the LLD assessment compare to the assessment for neighboring Vic Harbor?
We will launch the formation of the assessment district, and the civil engineer will determine what the assessment should be. We haven't done that yet.
What will be the anticipated price of these homes?
It's very difficult to say today. As I'm sitting here, the construction cost keeps going higher and higher. And I really wish I could tell you what, but they're going to be commensurate with the construction cost.
Well, but I'm sure you didn't go into this project not having some idea of what you would sell them for.
Well, I mean, anticipating something and then stating it here out loud are two different things.
I understand, with interest rates rising and homes. Yeah, I understand.
It's very uncertain now. I mean, to be honest with you, if the prices keep going higher and higher, we may reach a point of having to stop and not go forward with the project. It's very uncertain these days.
Because the location is not ideal with a highway off-ramp and then mobile homes behind. I mean, it's not a great location. So yeah,
I can only charge so much, yes. But
yeah, otherwise people will go elsewhere where they can get a nicer, location. Maybe not a brand new house, but
yes, that's very true. I have had a long-term relationship with the city of Sassoon, and I have played a major role in the past in the redevelopment of the town. And quite frankly, I'm doing this project because I feel it would be a significant improvement to the city as well as the Victorian Harbor. It will become a nice transition between Harbor Park, Victorian Harbor, to the mobile home park behind it. But yes, I do I do understand those are the disadvantages of this location, which ultimately will push the price down. And now we are facing an increasing construction cost. I'm hoping that at the end of the day, we will be upside right.
I mean, I welcome it as an improvement. I moved to Sassoon 7 years ago, seeing the potential. I think it's just starting to get on the ball when it comes to development and redevelopment, and actually wish they have done more, especially in the downtown. I see there's so much potential there. So I hope it is successful, and I hope you get a great price, because that will only help our prices.
Yes, I'm committed to make it successful. And I believe what we have, the product that we are offering, see that this is one of the advantages of this project, is that it does have that additional dwelling unit on top of the garage. And these are some of the amenities that probably you don't find it in other products that might compete with this one.
Yeah, that's right. It makes it very unique, and I think much more desirable. So, yeah, so I definitely will improve the neighborhood. I think those of us in the neighborhood, we just want the same consideration for things like maintenance and things that originally were given when our project was built and now have just fallen by the wayside. So, I don't see that the city does a good job at enforcing CCNRs and some basic things like weeds in yards, and RVs parked in alleyways, and cars parked in alleyways so much that the tires are gone flat and they've got spider webs growing off the wheels. So
Yeah,
I hope
I
they
mean,
do a good job with, this project that you're
the
developing.
CCNRs are enforceable by the city the same way that zoning is.
So we've gotten a few more questions that I'm happy to answer. I'm concerned about the light fixtures which throw light upward. The fixtures we're showing are shielded and don't do that. Part of code is dark sky. So you're not allowed to throw light fixtures up, and the drawings that I've provided don't do that. They are opaque on top. That's how they're designed. The bioretention and self-retaining areas are required under California state law now to process stormwater before it makes it into the system. So you have to have the self-retaining areas. We have a large one on the eastern edge. The lifespan of these homes given sea level rise predictions. The prediction is that sea level rise will hit 10 in 100 years. So these homes are set for that. BCDC, you can go onto their website and see what they are not predicting these days. The problem with sea level rise is cities need to protect their cities. And at the moment, there's not a plan to raise seawalls all the way around Sassoon that I know of. I'm doing 2 projects with BCDC that are dealing with sea level rise. The grades people are chasing are between 10 and 14, depending on which predictions you look at and how long. But ultimately, each city will end up having a responsibility to respond to their seawalls, such as the lagoon. This project is being designed to current requirements. The facades do not reflect Vic Homer across the street and are a monotonous wall. Please make them a Victorian-y. I believe that is a subjective design comment. We all have our aesthetic opinions, right?
I mean, I would like to add something to that, Clay. For so far as I have been involved with the city, the idea has been to be true to the turn of the century design. And some of it is Victorian, and some of it in Harvard Park is, what do you call it, craftsman. And what you have created there, you really have a stroke of genius there with the design that you created. I really think it will significantly fit in within our overall architecture of the town. As you said, it's a very subjective matter, but
I don't take that comment lightly, but I also, I have buildings that I've done that are on the National Register of Historic Places, and I've done work with the state architect, and I've done projects that are historic and renovated them. And the idea here was to draw from elements that exist along Lotz and create something that didn't copy Lotz way, because under the Secretary of Interior guidelines, you're not supposed to fake it. You're supposed to draw from it and try and complement it. And so most of the pieces in this project are stolen from the houses across the way. Now, granted, these are 3-story, those are 2, these are tall and narrow, those are short and fat. But the idea was to create something that played off of it and didn't copy it. And of course, the marketplace wants something a little bit bigger with a little more bells and whistles than what exists across the street. So when you're trying to deliver a product to society that provides a nice single family home for somebody, provides potential rental income because you could do the apartment out back, and provides a home office, which is what the ground floor is designed to do. You're designing to the COVID era style. You're not designing to 1950s. So you try to create something for the marketplace that splits the baby, so to speak. Cameron was very supportive in that exercise, and I think that you probably will be pleasantly surprised should all of this show up. There's no guarantees in the marketplace, right? You know, there's porches, there's doors, there's patios, there's eyes on the street, there's a nice landscape buffer, there's a new bike path, there's a new park. It's doing quite a bit for the community. It might be a little taller and a little bit different than what people want, but there's a lot of community benefit to this other than just 16 homes. It's not often you get to work with a project sponsor that says do 16 things, not 38 things. It's not often that you have a project sponsor that decides to put a public park in the middle of their project. It's not often that they take city property and create a new alley for them, because that's what he's doing. And yeah, developers, you know, quote unquote, modern, you know, pay your fair share, right? So that's the fair share. I've been, you know, not that how long I've been doing this makes any difference, but I have worked on quite a few projects over my gray-haired career. He's trying to do something special to infill this neighborhood. A pocket park is a nice thing. As somebody pointed out, a couple of units are kind of close to Civic Center. Those will be tough. The ones next to the park will be really nice. If you buy one of these, you have automatic ADU rental income, right? There's a lot of good stuff here. And I understand change is hard and taller buildings are difficult.
And a lot of people's children are coming home, not staying home these days.
Front door facing Lotz. It looks like patio French doors. Good question, Fandango. We purposely did not put the front doors along Lotz. We purposely put them on the side and the back so as not to cut up Lotz Way with a bunch of stairways and a bunch of stuff. So we wanted a very, Cameron was very adamant about this. I want a very nice bike path. I want a very nice pathway. I want a very nice landscape strip along Lotz, and all the guests will go into the alley. They'll park back there. They'll come through the walkway. So we purposely did not cut up Lotz Way with a bunch of concrete and front steps. We wanted a very nice landscape buffer between all of these homes and the sidewalk. So we consciously made people go around back. Would be an improvement to our neighborhood. Thank you for listening, for working a lot. You know, I love these meetings where you get pushback and you get comments and you get challenges. You know, Kieran and Cameron and I have been working on this for a while, trying to deliver something that we hoped most of you would like, that you would hear what we have to say and why we did the things the way we did, whether you agree with them or not. I mean, that's the beauty of our environment, right? We have our opinion, you have yours. We see if we can reach common ground. I like the little cottages off the alley in the back. I like the verticality of the units along Lotz. I mean, that's what Victorians, quote unquote, are, right? They're skinny, tall, vertical things. Whether you like the way they look or not, you know, that's subjective. But we did try to weave in bits and pieces from the neighborhood into these things. Hopefully we can wind our way through the process. Oh, somebody asked about paint. So oddly enough, if your paint faces south or west, it will only last 5 years. If it faces north or east, you might get 10 out of it. I don't care what paint you use. The southern and western sun will fry it off your house in 5 years or less. Whether it's Kelly Moore, Sherwin-Williams, Behr, I don't care. It won't last. The sun destroys it. But Cameron has in-house construction, and we pay very close attention to quality materials. So hopefully ours won't fry off in less than 5 years. I'm sorry if yours is going in less than 5. I'm happy to stay here and answer any more questions. Did I miss something? Would it be nice to see the facade plane?
I have a question about, is the city having you pay any developer fees to, for the roads, around the area? Are you going to be, with all the construction equipment coming and going on Lotz, are you going to be repaving that section of Lotz Way when you're done with the project, or contributing towards that somehow with some developer assessment or fees?
My understanding, Cameron, right, is we have all the standard development fees that you're required to pay for a project of this size. We will be overlaying Lotz and Alder and doing new sidewalks, right?
Yes, we not only are paying the fees, but they're also requiring us to pave.
So the short answer to your question would be yes.
So, okay, so you are going to repave or resurface the portion of Lotz in front of the project?
Correct.
To the center line,
Okay.
I believe, not all the way across.
I believe you're right.
I'd have to look at, so again, that question, you could look.
Because your construction trucks and such will be driving on both sides of Lotz Way, not just one half.
Most of the construction will be served from the back. So when you develop a project, if you damage the street, the city has the right to ask you to repair it. So all the water lines are, all the water lines are, so the water line is on the far side of Lotz Way. So all of that will have to be patched and slurry coated. And that was actually a comment from Jim Bermudez, the head of your planning department. And he's writing a condition of approval that ultimately so this is the very first meeting. So the first meeting is talking to you all and letting you know about the project. The next meeting is we end up in front of Design Review, Planning Commission, that path. And the conditions of approval get maintained or get written by Jim Bermudez and will be reviewed by the public. So you should follow along on the city website to make sure that the paving condition is written to your satisfaction. Because this meeting doesn't decide anything. It's simply to have the neighborhood and ourselves understand where we both are, so to speak. But as far as I can tell, the water line goes almost to the far side of Lotz. So, which means there's a bunch of cuts because you got to cut 16 times. It'll all get repaved, would be the short answer.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
Well, I can't guarantee it, but if I'm looking at the drawing, I'm betting that's what occurs.
Yeah.
Following up with a comment earlier, I like just having front yard maintained by the maintenance district. So the front yard on public property is part of the maintenance district. The front yard on the private property is the homeowners. And that's private property and they get to do what they want. Concerned that it won't be maintained after several years since one won't be walking through it. It seems like most of the people in the neighborhood, because I spent some time driving around there, take pretty good care of their front yards. It seems like peer pressure would cause people across the street to do the same. Hopefully that's the case, but we all know that people fall. Not everybody can keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. But that is private property and it's up to them to take care of their own property. I second the suggestion that the city LLD should maintain the front yards when people come and go only through the back of the house. they don't pay attention and bad no maintenance. Again, it's private property. The fact that the ADUs are rentals, there's no guarantee the ADU will be a rental. I don't think we're permitting them as ADUs. They're simply a 1-bedroom flat in the back. It may, mom may live there. That may be a home office. If I remember state law correctly, if I bought this house, I have to live in one of the 2 structures. I can't rent them both. So the homeowner will be in one of the 2 things. But you can certainly look at Scott Wiener's Senate bills and make your own judgment on that. I do a lot of ADUs. But it should be maintained by the city. Again, private landscaping is private. So that'd be like telling the people across the street that their front yards are not theirs. So I don't really understand how to force that on a private homeowner. Cameron, thoughts on that one?
Again, the city is in charge of maintaining the districts as well as enforcing CCNRs. And I think you would have a lot more leeway with the city than trying to do it on your own as a homeowners.
So I do know in my town, if my neighbors aren't taking care of their properties, there actually is a code enforcement and abatement thing, and you simply report them to the city, and hopefully the city comes and does things. I know in my town they will, because I know people that report people. I'm not one of those, but that's how you do it. So if a private property owner, has a 57 Chevy parked in their front lawn, you report it to code enforcement. And hopefully with COVID winding down, code enforcement will do something. But asking the city to maintain private property, I don't think that's the right course of action. I don't have any more questions. I'm happy to sit here and answer whatever else you have. If you think of something, we've been on for an hour and a half. The meetings technically are only supposed to go an hour, but I'm not a stickler for things like that. If you have more questions, Karen, you can pull her email and send her stuff and we will get you answers. There will be public hearings coming up, correct, Cameron?
Supposed to, yes.
I mean, we can't build this till we go through the public process, and the first step in Sassoon's public process is this meeting. This is step 1. Step 2 is public hearings. Usually there's a couple where we present to your appointed officials. We have been working with staff for several months with Jim Bermudez and his team. You're certainly welcome to reach out to him and ask him questions. And again, we are available to try and get you answers if there's something that we didn't do tonight. I would like to thank all of you for your engagement. As an ex-design review commissioner in one of the towns that I sat on for 10 years, public involvement is critically important. Challenging questions are appreciated, especially by architects like me, because I like the process. So thank you. I would like to think that we've designed something that will be a benefit and an asset to your community. There may be some bells and whistles that you don't like. That always tends to be the case in negotiations. If you get 90% of what you want, you should be relatively happy in my world. I really like that Cameron brought the park to the community. I like that he's improving a city street on 2 sides. And I like that he's doing less than half the density that he could be pushing.
I personally hope that just like one of the participants indicated, you look upon this project as a significant improvement to the city and Lotz Way. For many years, for those of you who have been on Lotz Way, have been looking out to this vacant lot and the mobile home park, I guarantee you, we can't do anything worse than what it is. And I can assure you, you will be pleased with the end product. Let's just hope and pray that we can get there.
Yeah, let's hope the market comes to us so we can get some more housing brought to us soon.
Yeah. Will you be keeping those palm trees that are on the lot?
No.
No.
Okay, you're gonna sell them?
Um,
They're worth some good money.
no, you're certainly probably welcome to talk with Jack and dig it up and take it wherever you want. Yeah, that little palm isn't really within the city's philosophy of street trees, but it would be useful to somebody.
Yeah.
Hi.
Okay, so if there's no more questions or
Hi.
comments,
Thank you.
I'm
Can
gonna
you
go
hear
ahead
me?
and close everything down.
Somebody is trying to talk.
Yeah. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. I just wanted to find out if just on the form of the, the design form of the structures, it would be nice if there was maybe a little bit, as the comment had mentioned, a little bit of push and pull on the front facade, just to have a little bit more movement on the street facade. So anyway, something to consider. It would be nice just to introduce a little bit more variety, as mentioned earlier.
So when you say push and pull, what do you mean exactly?
So have a little bit of, so the front facade, have it on one of the houses, perhaps steps back, whether it's on the entire facade or perhaps just on the third floor, and then have the adjacent house be in a slightly different plane so that you essentially keep the same program, the same scope, but you have variations within the facade, within a couple of feet, just to provide some relief on the setback. So, and so it would mean that perhaps on the third floor of one house, the bedroom that is facing Lotz Way would be 2 feet shallower, or the other one would be 2 feet deeper, just to bring a little bit more relief to the three-story facade and to bring some variety to the streetscape.
So thank you for explaining what that meant. Now I want to...
I'm an architect too, yeah.
I'm with you. I just wanted to, so, architects throw around words, and words sometimes don't describe the movement. So as an architect, you understand that I have a bay window popping out, I have balconies popping out, I have balconies pushing in. So there is quite a bit of movement to the front facade of each home. Would you agree or disagree with that?
I guess it would be nice to see the streetscape 3D view that I saw earlier, and I mean that not just in relating to the specific to the house itself, but how it relates to other houses.
Okay. Fair enough. We will take a look at that between now and when we get in front of, are we in design review or planning commission? Cameron, refresh my memory. What's next?
It would be planning commission.
Okay. We can talk. I mean, I personally think there is
the limitations that we have.
Yeah. I personally think there is quite a bit of movement. But I understand your comment as well. So we will see if there's anything we can do. I mean, the price you pay for pushing the houses, they can't push forward, right? Because they can't get any closer to the street because of the setbacks.
Right.
So they either get smaller or they take away from the courtyards between the carriage house and the house. So that's the balancing act.
Yeah, and I guess it's also, you know, the idea of Victorian Harbor currently has a mix of 1-story and 2-story. And I realize in the real estate and the, you know, everybody wants to have you know, maximize the square footage, but, you know, could some units have, could be slightly smaller so that they do have a setback that maybe does reduce the bedroom by 1, or, you know, there's a little bit more both vertical and horizontal movement, but, you know, as we saw in the street view from Victorian Harbor, it kind of goes up, undulates up and down vertically as well as horizontally. Yeah.
Fair comment. I would encourage you to go onto the city's website and study the individual unit floor plans. As an architect, you may be able to find somewhere that you could make rooms smaller. And then we can visit that when we get to Planning Commission, I would think.
Yeah, just something that I wanted to, you know, mention that I think would address some of the comments that everybody, you know, in our neighborhood has been talking about. So, which I agree with, and I think it would just be worth, you know, considering. So,
no, we will definitely look at it. I mean, it's not as though we didn't look at it. This is this balancing act solution. It's whenever you design things, as you well know, there's trade-offs.
Yeah.
So there's, you know, how deep is the driveway? How big are trucks in Sassoon? How big is the garage? What's the right size for the courtyard? How big should the unit be? What's the smallest or largest bedroom? And how far is this house really away from the curb? And the home is almost 30 feet away from the curb line. And at quote unquote 30 feet tall, that's a 1-to-1 ratio. That is a pretty, and then from the houses across the way, it's almost, what, 70 feet, 80 feet away? So if you look at proportions of street width to home height and the way spaces feel, that's a very American proportion. Europe, they tend to be 1-to-1. So it'd be a 30-foot wide street with a 30-foot wide house on either side. America tends to be much wider streets. Be an interesting section to cut to study to see what our proportions is. So I'll take a look at that before we get in front of Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you.
Will this recording be available to those who couldn't make it this evening or those who are not proficient at Zoom?
I think Karen, you'll have to help me here because you're the organizer of all things Zoom. This recording gets submitted to the city. Is that correct, Karen?
So
Yes.
the recording will be available to everybody once we get the link.
So you'll be able to watch it as many times as you would like.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Kind of a dream come true. Will the chat also be available?
I'm sorry, Mike, could you repeat yourself again, please? You're on mute at the moment.
I think he said, will the chat also be available?
I think the whole thing is recorded and transcribed, so everything will end up available for you guys to evaluate. And I say I think because I don't know for sure, but. And Karen just chimed in, yes, the chat transcript and recording will be available. Anything else, everyone? I know we've kept you way longer than I hoped to, but I appreciate the interaction.
No, thank you for taking the time to answer all our questions and concerns.
Thank you for participating. I will log everybody off now if that's acceptable. Or you can log off on your own so I don't boot you out. Take care, everybody. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I will end the meeting now.